Something unusual showed up in today's case file, a pattern. Someone quietly disappearing from people's lives, blocking numbers, ignoring messages, walking away from friendships, family, sometimes entire social circles. No big announcement, no dramatic goodbye, just silence. And the strange part? The person who does this usually believes they're finally protecting their peace. Now here's the question that started this investigation. What kind of mind cuts people off so easily? Because on the surface, society has a simple explanation. They say people who cut everyone off are cold, selfish, emotionally unavailable, the kind of person who burns bridges and never looks back. But psychological investigations rarely end with the obvious answer. So let's examine the evidence. First, there are the small behaviors. Maybe you recognize a few of these. You read a message, and instead of replying, you close the app and promise yourself you'll answer later. But later never comes. Or someone disappoints you, maybe not in a huge way, just something small, a canceled plan, a careless comment, and suddenly a quiet thought appears in your mind. Maybe it's just easier if they're not in my life at all. Here's another one. You start feeling drained around certain people. Conversations feel heavy. Your patience runs thin. And one day, instead of fixing the relationship, you simply remove yourself from it. No confrontation, no explanation, just distance. At first glance, it looks like indifference, but this is where the investigation gets interesting, because psychologists have noticed something surprising. Cutting people off often has two completely different psychological origins, and they lead to the exact same behavior. The first is personality. Some people naturally have a very low tolerance for emotional chaos. When relationships become complicated, dramatic, or unpredictable, their brain quietly decides this isn't worth the stress. So they step away. Not because they don't care, but because their mind protects calm the way other people protect loyalty. But the second origin is very different and much deeper. For some people, cutting others off is actually a coping strategy, a psychological survival tool learned much earlier in life. Maybe they grew up around unpredictable relationships. Maybe trust was broken too many times. Maybe every emotional conflict felt overwhelming, so their mind developed a shortcut. If someone hurts you, remove them. No arguments, no second chances, just elimination of the source of stress. And over time, this pattern becomes automatic. You stop asking whether the relationship can be repaired. You only ask one question: is my peace safer without them? Now think about a few everyday moments. A friend sends a message that feels slightly passive-aggressive, and you instantly lose the desire to reply. A family member calls, and your first instinct is to let it ring. Someone apologizes after disappointing you, but something inside you has already closed the door. Not loudly, just quietly, like a switch turning off. Here's the twist most people never notice. People who cut others off are often extremely sensitive to emotional signals. They notice tone shifts, subtle disrespect, hidden tension, and when those signals pile up, their mind makes a fast decision: exit. Research on emotional boundaries suggests that people who strongly value psychological safety are more likely to withdraw from relationships that repeatedly create stress. In simple terms, some minds are wired to protect their energy quickly. But here's the real question in this investigation. If you're someone who has cut people off, Was it always about protecting your peace? Or sometimes, was it about avoiding a conversation that felt too difficult? Because those two things can look identical from the outside, but inside the mind, they come from very different places. And that's where I'd like to hear your testimony. Have you ever cut someone out of your life completely and later wondered whether it was the right decision? Or if maybe the investigation wasn't finished yet? Write your answer in the comments, because every mind leaves clues. And here at MindSheriff, we follow those clues carefully. If you want to keep uncovering the hidden patterns behind human behavior, subscribe, because the human mind is full of unsolved cases, and around here, the investigation never really ends.